You are listening to the Hodges Huddle, where we discuss all things in the wide world of sports. Here is your KLSU sports team.
Welcome into the Hodges Huddle. I'm your host, Andre Champagne, and today we are joined by Jayden Smith and Raven Freeman. How are y'all doing on this Monday?
It's Monday. Woke up this morning. It was cold. Now it's hot. Tired of the bipolar weather. Plus, the Texans lost yesterday, so I'm sad. But Lamar and the Ravens play tonight. I have confidence in them, and we're coming off an LSU win, so not too bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it today?
It's a mundane Monday. Not much going on.
What does mundane mean? Moderate?
Are you just looking up all these?
Is that a word?
Yeah,
I don't think that one was your best. But
it's a mundane Monday.
Yeah,
folks.
today's like, we just had fall break, so you get back on that Monday and you're like, dang.
Gotta get back to it.
You kind of have to. Ain't no other way. But I literally have this, it's going to be another long week. But
literally,
the LSU Tigers are coming off of another big win in SEC play. So let's go ahead and talk about them and their win against Arkansas on the road. LSU defeated Arkansas in Fayetteville with yet another dominant defensive performance as they won by a score of 34-10. Nussmeier didn't really have his best outing, but he did the things that he absolutely needed to in order to win the game. And really, what LSU showed this past Saturday is that they could run the ball now. Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So Caden Durham, I would say, was the offensive player of the game with 21 carries, 101 yards on the ground, and 3 touchdowns. By the way, Brian Kelly said he was 85% this week. So that's even more impressive. But let's discuss that offense first off. Garrett Nussmeier's numbers weren't really flashy in this one, but what did you see from his play in this game?
Getting the ball out quickly. And we said that, I think the last podcast.
We said that for Ole Miss.
That was going to be the key to them really winning this stretch of games against Arkansas and A&M. And they off on the right track. They did a very good job at getting the ball out quickly. They didn't have these plays where the routes take super long to develop. And that's why they scored so easily on the first drive. So I just think if they can keep that type of continuity and consistency within the Florida offense, especially going up against a defense like A&M, it's just going to make them that much better.
Right. What do you think, Raven?
Yeah, he played very smart. Just like Jayden said, he got the ball out quicker, and he was able to, read the field. And, that balance is kind of hard to do, especially coming off a game like he played against Ole Miss. So that was nice to see. But let me tell you what else I saw. Why he doesn't run at all. He ran on, 2 plays. And, against Ole Miss, when he got those crucial 13 yards on third down, okay, no one touched him. He slid, he got up, whatever. He ran those 2 times, and Arkansas got to him, and he was slow to get up. My dad was like, Garrett, this is why you don't run. But you're also not in shape to run. It takes those hits to get your body, adjusted to things like that.
Yeah.
And, that needs to happen more. But you could tell how scared he was because he didn't run
he got
the whole –
rocked sometimes.
Yeah, he didn't run the whole rest of the game. So, that was kind of hard to see because he needs to use his legs. I'm going to mention this later, especially against A&M. I think he's going to have to more. Right. But that's what I saw. I understand why he doesn't run. He's scared. Obviously, we know that, but it's dang.
Yeah, I actually thought Garrett played a really good game. One of the best things that we saw is that he played turnover-free football.
He did.
I mean,
no interceptions.
That was definitely – there was definitely times where he threw some risky balls, and I completely thought they should have been picked off, but they weren't. So we can't really hold him against it. But like I said, that's how Garrett Nussmeier plays. But what I specifically liked from Garrett this week was the anticipation was on cue this week. And it was kind of what Jayden talked about. And we also talked about this being a struggle in the Ole Miss game last week. And you saw him and the receivers being right on time with routes. And that was super big to extending drives in both the first half and the second half. So I thought that was a really big deal for him and the chemistry of those wide receivers. But this LSU team rushed the ball when they needed to, and they did so pretty successfully. So what did you see from the LSU offensive line that impressed you with something we haven't really seen normally?
I feel like I say this every week. Of course, they're good at protecting Garrett, but it's they did a good job at opening up so that, Caleb Jackson came, so that they could get through that. I mean, they've been struggling with that all season. No one can produce anything. And it's like, okay, there's Caden. He's carrying this group on his back. But Caden is a smarter running back. But, like, what Caden does is not normal, which is a good thing. But it's like, if your O-line isn't helping you, then it's like you're going to get little to no yards unless you have someone like Caden, which God bless we do. But that's what I like this week. I mean, the rotation on last Saturday, it looked good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone was able to get their yards in.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job of getting the early push and carving out some of those gaps for the backs to run through. I mean, Caden had, 100 yards on just 21 carries.
Right.
Like, 5 yards a carry?
3 touchdowns, by the way.
3 touchdowns. So I thought they did a very good job of getting the early push and not having to be pushed back, and then the back having to find some type of lane or gap to run through. So that really makes all the difference. And we've been saying that leading up to the Ole Miss game, like, when is the running game going to be there?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We had 158 rushing yards. Arkansas had 38.
Right.
And it's also, that's part of the reason why Garrett was probably turnover free, because he didn't have to sling the ball so much. He didn't have to put it out there because the running game was open up.
Right.
When the running game is working, everything else is going to fall right in place.
Exactly. And you got to give it to Arkansas's defense. Those guys played pretty strong for most of the game until that, the turnover. But I think the LSU interior line did a much better job of getting pushes than they have in the previous weeks. And that's kind of where LSU's lacks some strength and just physicality on the interior of the line. Obviously, we need to see more separation. We kind of talked about those holes. They're getting a little bigger.
Right.
But the LSU run schemes are designed for little space and little time for those holes to be open. So it kind of depends on the running backs at times. So it's kind of more of a high risk, high reward deal if you kind of look at it that way. But I think it's steadily improving every game, and I don't think LSU needs to go and rush for 100, 160, 170, 180 every single game for that to open up the pass game. But I think 120 to 150, I think that range is certainly good enough to get you in your comfortable spot. Yeah. So, but does LSU need to get those other backs involved in the pass game more?
I think based off last season, yes, because that versatility is so important, and it works for most teams that can balance that. I mean, we saw how well it worked with Jayden Daniels, and it just also opens up the pass game as far as wide receivers, because a lot of teams don't suspect that. I mean, Caleb and Caden have done it very well. So has Josh. He's had some flashes when Garrett actually does throw them the ball. So it's like, why not do that more?
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only going to add more layers and dimensions to this offense. And secondly, this run game is not good enough, not yet at least, to only depend on them to run the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they're just not good enough yet. So they have to be effective in as many ways as possible. And I think they're more than capable of doing that. I mean, Josh Williams had 43 yards against Ole Miss receiving. So absolutely, you've got to find somewhere and some way for them to be productive and effective and really keep their foot on the gas and put pressure on that defense.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with both of y'all. I think just watching, though, Josh Williams and Caden Durham, they were involved in the pass game at times in this game. But for me, it's just a simple, check downs, and I think a lot of that maybe this week had to deal with both of those running backs that we had were heavily involved in the pass blocking. So you didn't really see them get to, go out into the flat and get those, passes. But I think play designs, specifically for all those guys like Juwan Johnson, Caleb Jackson, obviously additional to Josh Williams and Caden Durham, I think those are necessary, especially if LSU has times where they're struggling to run the ball, where you just take the short yardage and dump off to those running backs. So for these LSU receivers, though, they had a really good game, especially in one-on-one coverage from what I saw.
Solid.
Exactly. Talk about what you saw from this group and what popped out to you from that group.
C.J. Daniels. This is a guy that we've been waiting the entire season to really get rolling, and it seems like every time we see him out there, he's just a little bit closer to what we think he's capable of being. He finished with 86 yards on 7 receptions.
A leader.
And big 29-yard catch. He was just really active Saturday night. He was catching a lot of balls that came his way. He almost came down with the ridiculous catch, like on the sideline.
Yeah, that was insane.
I thought he caught
he
that for
caught
a
it
second,
too.
and then I saw the
did.
replay.
Yeah.
But just solid, man. And they also made big catches when they needed to. The catch that Aaron Anderson made, like when the
Clutch.
ball was like on his shoelace, like that was crazy.
Clutch.
So I just think they were just solid all around. 86 yards, 49 yards, 36, 25. Like, if you guys can just keep doing that across the board, we'll be fine.
And
Like,
that's
we
hard to
don't-
cover
yeah,
because you can bracket a guy,
yeah.
but you can't game plan for 4 different guys.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, you just
Yeah.
can't.
I think it's perfect. Like, we don't have Malik and BT, so we're not going to have 2 guys finishing with 100 yards every week. So I
Right.
think if they can just be this consistent
Balance.
across the entire receiving core, I think they'll be perfectly fine.
I agree.
Yeah, what popped out to me, Ole Miss, this group did not have a good game. So, just like the improvement, CJ Daniels coming back was huge. He had a very good first game back. But it's like Arkansas has a decent secondary, and I feel like these wide receivers really showed, like, their talents, like their speed, their agility. They were able to, like, really get away from anyone that was guarding them and make these impressive catches. Because like we said, Garrett had a good game too. So, I mean, just like the improvement from last week, it was like night and day. That's what I liked.
Yeah, I thought C.J. Daniels specifically played phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you think about it. He just came off of that injury and a knee injury at that. But the fact that he was able to create so much separation with such limited practice was really a really good thing to see. And I think Kyron Lacey had a better game than the stats showed because, I mean, he was getting held most of the night.
Right.
A lot of pass interferences on him. And defender, like I said, they couldn't guard him because he was open on a deep ball that Garrett completely missed through.
Yeah.
That should have been a touchdown. And then also you look at Aaron Anderson. Just continue to show how clutch of a player he really is because I think it was about 7 minutes ago in the game, and it was still kind of close. I think it was 24-10 at this point. And he caught the third down pass, I believe, to extend the drive, which later gave LSU a touchdown. I think just stuff like that is it goes completely unseen from guys like that, and he has been nothing but clutch, like absolutely clutch. So it's nice to have a player that can step up in those big moments. But let's talk about some of the play calling from Joe Sloan. Starting off with the negatives, what did you not like on Saturday?
Like I said previously, this Arkansas defense didn't play as well as I feel like we all thought, like they normally do. So it made Joe Sloan look less predictable. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he still coached a better game than he normally does. But, like, I feel like how the Ole Miss defense so easily picked us apart. I feel like Arkansas was getting to that point. They just couldn't get a rhythm going. I just don't know when Joe Sloan is going to realize what he's doing is too readable. I just feel like it's going to be too late.
I agree.
Yeah, I didn't like the lack of creativity when we got in the red zone.
Me too.
I think we easily should have finished this game with 40-plus points.
I agree.
Like, easily.
Yeah.
We just have to be more creative when we get into that red zone, and we have way too many playmakers and athletes on that side of the ball to be doing the simple run up the middle, stretch runs, slants. Like,
I agree.
Empty the clip, man. Empty the playbook.
Seriously.
I agree. Yeah, for me, it's just the situational calls. I didn't like some of the run plays when LSU was in long yardage situations. Like, for example, LSU was calling runs up the middle, like Jayden said, on a 2nd and 12 or a 2nd and 10. Literally plays after they got stuffed up the middle. So it's just like, what are we doing? But what kind of play calls did you like from Joe Sloan that allowed LSU to be a little more dangerous offensively?
I like those quick comeback routes that they really started the game with. I think that opened the tone up right away because that was my big takeaway from the Ole Miss game, just like how much the timing was off between Garrett and a lot of those receivers. So it was great to see that they went ahead and corrected that, and that really allowed for them to really open the game up and really just get some continuity within that offense, quick passes.
Right.
That way you don't have to worry about Garrett trying to run around and things like that. So I think it was best for them to, play it that way.
I do.
Yeah, I agree. I also feel like Garrett has been throwing the ball a lot this season, but I feel like he threw it deeper more. Like I feel like this game was kind of full of like risk,
Mm-hmm.
and I
agree.
I liked that. Like they took some risk. I feel like they knew, okay, this isn't that hard of competition. Let's have some fun, and I feel like that's what they did. I liked that.
Yeah, and in very close calls too.
Yeah,
But
I think the one to C.J. Daniels was a PI, and I think there was one to Kyron where he
Kyron
just
wasn't even
missed
close
that one, but
completely. But
yeah.
also there was a PI on Kyron that, I mean, he Garrett threw the ball, and as soon as he goes into frame on the camera, Kyron is like out of bounds on the ground.
Yeah.
So, but I like Joe Sloan's call to get the ball to Mason Taylor in short gainage situations, especially those, just dump offs, honestly. The first touchdown that got called back, I love that play call a lot. And they've done it, year after year to get, him open. But obviously, Kyron Lacey has to at least, act like he's, running a route and not throwing off a block. But
I think it was something like
it was
something because of like where they were lined up or something like that.
Yeah, it was that caused it to be OPI.
Yeah.
But I also like the play action a lot, where it allows Nuss to move a little bit outside of the pocket where he's clean. But you can also see how successful he is doing that. And I think there needs to be more ways that, stuff like that can be incorporated. I want to see a little more, I guess, action behind the line of scrimmage. I like to see the motion guys, and that creates so much confusion for a defense that if you do that a lot during a game, you're gonna be due for a lot of big plays.
Yeah.
So for this offense moving forward, they face a very good Texas A&M defense. What needs to be done to make sure the Tigers score in the red zone in this one, as opposed to last game where they missed out on a good bit of opportunities?
I'm gonna say it again, creativity.
Yeah.
You're not going to beat, let alone a good team, but especially a good defense, running these basic elementary plays in the red zone, man. It's just not going to work.
And it hasn't been working.
You have to give them, even if it's like just some eye candy, give them some exotic looks or something like that. Like, because the last thing we need is to be settling for 3, or it's a 4th and goal, and now Brian Kelly wants to go for it again, and we don't get it, and now that changes the whole entire landscape of the game, like the USC game, like the Florida State game from last year. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see us score touchdowns in the red zone.
Right.
Yeah. A&M plays their best defense in the red zone. I've been watching A&M. So, I mean, like Jayden said, it's just you cannot be predictable because they're not even going to pick us apart. They're going to destroy us. They're going to want us to get down to the red zone and be like, oh, okay, well, here comes this stuff. Here comes this fumble. Because that's what's going to happen. I mean, Joe Sloan, this one's, I don't know.
Yeah, this is the Joe Sloan legacy game coming up.
It is.
So I think LSU just has to make sure they're not complacent. You saw a lot of times where LSU ran the ball when it wasn't working for them, and it's really predictable. Like you said, when they motion a guy to the back of Garrett Nussmeier, they're running the stretch play.
Right.
That's all they do. And I think, like you said, Jayden, the red zone is where you need to be most creative. That first touchdown, like I said earlier, that got called back, it's a great example of how, that's a creative play. I'll give that to Joe Sloan. Now, that's a player issue of executing, but stuff like that can work. It shows you it can work. But I think also just making sure you draw up the right plays for the right players is going to be essential in this one, too, because in the Arkansas games, you were throwing fade routes to Aaron Anderson. That doesn't need to be happening because he's a smaller guy.
And, by the way,
and you have CJ and Kyron. Those are both 6'2" plus guys.
Yeah,
right.
So I want to say, by the way, that was a beautiful throw
and should have been caught for sure.
I think if he was 6'1", he catches that.
Yeah, I agree. Not as much body control when you have that speed, but like I said, you can't have those kinds of mistakes, kind of mental mistakes, when you're playing such a physical defense next week. But what has to improve for this offense going into such a hostile environment next week?
They need to stay very focused and poised.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely no penalties. Crowd noise is going to be a huge factor. Like, they just need to go play by play and lock in. Pay attention. I know that's like kindergarten language, but it's like Kyle Field gets loud. They get rowdy, and they will throw you off your game quick. I mean, like even like Will Campbell, he's had some penalties.
Yeah,
Like
weird
too many for my liking.
Right.
Weird to see.
So I mean, that's just what it's all about. Like I feel like the crowd is going to be a big factor in this game. So like staying focused is so important. Don't jump. Like no penalties.
Right.
Yeah, I'll do you one more. Like penalties.
Yeah,
we cannot be having these kindergarten penalties.
No.
Like, why do we have 10 false starts and we're playing Arkansas and we're ahead?
It was loud. I'll give them that, but it wasn't that loud.
Yeah, like
right.
this isn't the game for that.
No,
like,
it's not.
And it really never is.
Here's
but
a good
especially
thing.
not this.
At least
game.
you did it now, not next week, because next week Arkansas didn't take advantage, but A&M will.
Oh yeah, they will for sure.
Yeah, so I think they're really gonna have to cut down on penalties, and I'm sure they'll correct that. Like I trust this offensive line, and I would say secondly, we can't afford to have like dry spots within the offense.
Mm-hmm.
We can't afford to have 2 or 3 drives where we get stagnant and don't really know what to do and have to depend on West Weeks to put us in position to score. Like it can't come down to that.
Yeah, I have the same thing. False starts can't be a thing. And let me tell you why a lot of this goes on Garrett Nussmeier. Brian Kelly kind of talked about in the presser, and he was like, a lot of the offensive line is going to get, half the blame for that. But he waited until about 3 seconds to snap the ball, and apparently that made DJ Chester double clutch a few times. And that's what's considered as a false start.
Timing is everything.
And so they say, Brian Kelly kind of put a little bit of the blame on Garrett Nussmeier, saying, "Hey, we can't wait till 2 seconds, 3 seconds for you to make the audible. Like you got to get with the program." And so just the penalties, like you said, and the communication needs to get a little better.
Yeah.
So, but let's change the topic and discuss this phenomenal performance by the LSU defense. LSU defense held Arkansas to under 300 total yards and caused 3 turnovers on the night. Whit Weeks showed once again that he can be the guy for this LSU defense. And where Arkansas was most successful on the year with rushing the ball, they were held to just 38 yards on the night. LSU did a wonderful job of making them one-dimensional, but there's a lot to be happy about for this defense. So starting off, let's talk about the defensive line and getting pressure to Taylon Green. Now, this defensive line as a whole didn't get as many sacks as they might have wanted to, but they forced Green out of the pocket quickly on most plays, and they forced him to make those bad decisions. So what did you see from that group, from both the pass rush and rush defense?
Really, how quick they were getting off the ball and flushing him outside of the pocket.
Yeah.
A lot of very mobile quarterbacks are not very accurate throwing the ball. Like,
right.
You can't have everything, right? So I think they did a very good job of making him make throws that he was uncomfortable with making. And as far as the rush defense, I didn't see a lot of 2-yard gains turning into 5-yard gains and 3-yard gains turning into 8-yard gains. So I think that was really just the deciding factor right there, the fact of how quick they got off the ball and the pushes that they were able to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jayden took the words right out of my mouth. Just to add on, like Andre said, the defensive line, they didn't get as many sacks. But it's it was nice to see them take a different approach as far as stopping Green. Because, he was still contained. He wasn't 100%. We all knew that. But, you could still tell whether he were to be fully back or not, this defense was going to stop him. You could clearly tell that they trained last week for a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
That was a big point in last week's podcast.
Yeah, and another thing that's going to go unseen to most LSU fans is the ability that the defensive line showed to completely stop the Arkansas rush game. Mm-hmm. And that was the sole reason you were able to bring more pressure in the second half with guys like Wood Weeks, Major Burns, and create some turnovers. So they made Arkansas one-dimensional, and that allowed them to play, like I said, more aggressive in the second half. But Blake Baker seems to keep improving this defense from week to week. What's something you noticed the defense improving on this week specifically? I can go
tackling.
first. You said tackling.
Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating watching this defense last year.
Yeah.
And just not being able to do like the simple things right, like just that. So I think it goes a long way. Like now, even when like if they do get a big game, right? Okay, it's gonna stop right here. You're not finna get hurdled and juke two players and things like that. So like tackling is. You can tell it's been like such an emphasis this offseason and really just
are being laid.
Oh my gosh. I thought Sage Ryan was done. I just knew he was done.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were gonna call I was like, oh, that was too much. Like
I saw the replay and I was like, that's shoulder. That's a hit to the shoulder. And I was like, he played really well in general. He played very well.
I saw Sage Ryan in class today.
Oh,
and
should have gave him
it felt a little different. Like now, yeah.
You should have gave him, some compliments.
Yeah, but they played a great game, man. I mean, they were aggressive. Just, man, great to see.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I put the secondary because the defense had a great game against Ole Miss, but I feel like that secondary was lacking, and that brings up the conversation of Sage Ryan. I haven't said the nice things about Sage Ryan, but Sage Ryan played well.
I tried telling y'all he's a safety, and he always was.
I can definitely tell now because that's what safeties do.
Yes,
corners
but
don't do that.
When has he showed that besides Arkansas? Let's be honest.
Because he was always put at cornerback.
Situational.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a coaching thing,
but true. But it's like even Ashton Stamps. Ashton Stamps is one of the most consistent players on this defense. Like even he played really well because he seemed a little shaken up against Ole Miss. Like that's my point. He didn't play his best game against Ole Miss, but it was nice to see him back to his roots. So I mean, I like that improvement there. There wasn't a lot to talk about to me as far as improvement, only because of how well they played.
Yeah, I thought I also have the DBs. I said the coverage was really solid, and also it was solid against. In my opinion, I kind of overlooked this Arkansas wide receiver core. Because Andrew Armstrong is the number 3 receiving.
Yeah, he's good.
Receiver in the SEC. And you also have a guy like Isaac Tesla, very good and dangerous after the catch. And you also had other guys that can, make plays. But you went up against, like I said, a more underrated Arkansas wide receiver core. And then Zy Alexander, Ashton Stamps, and especially the safeties. I thought Jordan Gilbert had a great game. I thought Sage Ryan played phenomenal. They did a great job of limiting the chunk plays. Now, there were times where they give up a play, but that you have to give it – you're not going to play a perfect game. Like, that's just not going to happen. LSU never really went and said – or LSU never really showed that they didn't improve after the last drive, right? Like, yes, they gave up that touchdown, and that was kind of a I would say that was a broken coverage by Ashton Stamps. Not his fault because – he had to make up for the safety drawing in, and that's going to happen every once in a while. But they kind of cleaned everything up after a bad play. So, if, Arkansas would usually start off the drive hot with 1 or 2 good plays, they wouldn't get past the 50 after that.
Right.
So that was just really what impressed me.
Bending but not breaking.
Exactly. But what do you think of the identity of the defense now? It seems as if LSU is now finding their, footing after trying to find everyone's role throughout the first half of the season, and now that they have, found kind of an identity for themselves, they're starting to play just out of their mind.
They are. I mean, what this means for, the defense going forward as far as, now that everyone's found their role essentially, which is crucial, it's all about consistency. Consistency and, how we're going to keep playing. Obviously, to me, the defense didn't play as well as they did against Ole Miss, but they played well. It was still night and day from even earlier this season. And we need to keep that level of playing style because they definitely can. We've used the puzzle analogy a lot with this defense. And, the puzzle essentially is give or take done, but we can't let it slide off the counter and watch it crumble in some games. Consistency is key here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have – that's the perfect way to put it. They found their identity. And
ever since then, they know what they're doing.
But I think it was –
it was Harold Perkins.
But I don't want to say it like that, but it's just that's what it was.
It makes it easier on a coach when you don't have to worry about it.
Everyone else has more of a natural feel of what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be at. Because the thing with Perk is – one week he's playing this guy's position, so he has to get somewhere else. And then he's playing his position and his position.
And then he just doesn't feel comfortable. You could tell, and it, like you said, it's just confusing.
And the thing about defense, like, it's not like offense where somebody can get lucky, like, a tip ball and you happen to catch it and run into the end zone. No, defense, like, all 11 men have to be doing the right thing for it to work. Yeah. If one person is out of position, if one person is doing the wrong thing, it'll mess the whole thing up.
Yep.
So, like Perk is just one player, but even with him being all over the field, it made that much of a difference.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about Perk this way, but it's literally like finishing a puzzle, taking a piece out and trying to put it somewhere else. I mean, like, it just hasn't been working, and it's like now it's working. So it's like, I mean, I told my stepdad this weekend, I was like, Perk is out and like things have looked better, and we had a conversation about it, and he was like, yeah. I mean, we love Harold, but it's like, dang,
at
man.
what cost?
I mean, that's, man.
Yeah.
At what cost?
Like I said, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. Obviously, it hurts, but just the ability for LSU to know who they have and knowing, what specifically makes them play, so great will help them down the line for game prep, especially. Now you're no longer, trying to find holes in the defense, right? And knowing which guys do I have to fill if this guy can't do this.
Right.
You're no longer having to worry about that. Now you can just focus on, hey, this offense does this that we're going up against. Here's how you stop it. Let's learn it this week. It's no longer saying, hey, we got to fix this zone coverage. We got to, fix, the communication and stuff like that. That is no longer an issue, which is awesome to see because LSU is, like I said, they're firing on all cylinders now. And I think they really, could finish as a top 25 defense in the country if they keep it up.
Yeah.
But who's a player that flew under the radar Saturday that you thought did really well? Notice how I said under the radar, not Whit Weeks.
Yeah.
Because we already
came
know
to
Whit
mind
Weeks.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give it to Paris Shan.
Okay.
I feel like, again, he's one of the most consistent players on his defense for real. I just feel like he's not talked about enough. And I feel like he's done some shine. I mean, like, he was captain for one of the games. And, like, you just hear his name a lot. He's always where the commotion is. Like, he's so quick to be anywhere on the field where any opponent is. And I feel like that's very impressive. So I'm going to give mine to Paris.
I like that pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a name I've never said for, like, anything like this.
It's going to be Sage Ryan, isn't it?
Him too, but no.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I'm going to say Major Burns.
Oh, Mr.
Here
Burns. Jaden has beef with Major Burns.
I don't got beef.
Nah.
I'm just kidding.
He's improved.
He has.
Like, probably one of the best improvements on his defense.
I think he was one of the biggest beneficiaries of Blake Baker coming to this program and implementing his style of play into this defense. But you talk about, like, being where the commotion is. That's what I saw from Major last night. And not doing
very
it and just
involved.
yapping.
Yeah.
But he was actually, like, involved in the action. I saw him playing the ball well when it did come his way. And there was one play that Whit Weeks made. I think it was like a tackle for loss.
Yes.
And Whit Weeks was able to make that play because Major did his job of containing and forcing the guy back inside. Like, things like that are so important that they don't show up in the stat sheet. Like, you don't even, like, notice it. So just the small things, like, end up making such a big difference. So
yeah, I love both of those picks, and I actually have Greg Penn. I thought he played really well in the rush defense, as well as limiting the big plays in pass coverage. That's something we've kind of questioned with Greg Penn. Can he play a little better pass coverage to help Whit Weeks play that inside spot? But he did a fine job of wrapping up and making the tackle before he went out with that injury, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be fine to play this week. But he's also a guy that, forced the first fumble of the night, and that really set the tone,
It did set the tone
for this LSU defense for the rest of, like I said, the rest of the night. But now looking forward, this LSU defense is going to have to face a very good Texas A&M offense, and they're better than what they show statistically. They're very physical. That offensive line is physical. Their wide receivers can go up one-on-one, and their quarterback is pretty good. And Connor, I think it's Weigman. But what do you think this defense has to improve on in this game to make sure that they're doing well against a Texas A&M offense?
So with Arkansas on Saturday, it was like when Arkansas would start the drive, they might get a big play on first down and another one on second down, and that would be it.
Right.
I think this Saturday we can't have that. I think we have to make it like Ole Miss and not create a lot of 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3.
Quick drive.
Yeah.
Right.
We can't give them opportunities for 2nd and 3rd and shorts and things like that. I think we have to keep it at least 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, and make them really be honest to that playbook and, how they want to approach things from there on out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this defense knew how to treat Green. Okay, that's fine, but, like, they need to treat Connor like they did Mr. Jackson Dart. That's what I feel like he's going to make this game success because he knows how to get that ball out quick, but A&M has some good wide receivers, and they make some good connections. Noah Thomas, I went to high school with Noah Thomas, and he's been good from the jump. That's why
they're just physical, very
that's
physical.
That's why he left Dawson in the first place, but it's okay. I'm not going to throw any shade. But, I mean, like, getting pressure to him, like, I want more sacks in this game, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, we didn't sack Green as much, but it's like I feel like that needs to happen.
Weigman can run with his legs, but it's a last resort.
Right.
Now, if you're getting beat by Weigman once or twice on a play because, pressure doesn't get home every play, that's okay. You'd rather that than, coverage bust.
Right.
But I like that. I think LSU's defense is going to have to be able to make sure they don't get beat deep. They have to also get off the field in 3rd and mediums, kind of like Jayden said. They weren't great in short yardage situations this week, but I think LSU does an okay job of playing the chains on 3rd down, but it's really going to be tough against a much more physical A&M team. So I think just playing the chains is going to be very important. Like, play what's in front of you, not what's behind you, but also just making sure that everybody does their job just to where you don't get beat on the big play. So kind of like best of both worlds. But give me your early predictions for this game since, we won't have a tailgate show until Saturday. So I'll go first if y'all want.
Yeah, you go first.
I think LSU, like last week, they're going to run away with this one if they start hot. Now, I don't know how possible that's going to be in such a hostile environment. And I think we're going to get the best Texas A&M version. But for the very reason that I think Texas A&M lost that game against Notre Dame, I just don't know if they have enough on offense to show that they're explosive to keep up with LSU if LSU's offense shows up.
Right.
Meaning this could be a blowout if the LSU great offense that we know shows up. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I still think it's going to be really close. I think there's going to be a lot of field goals in this one. I'm still going to say it's LSU 37-31. That's my early prediction.
My biggest concern with this game, these guys are coming off 2 wins, 2 big wins. And, like, this team's biggest enemy is confidence. And if y'all go in there with too much confidence,
it's true,
thinking that you're going to win, A&M's going to hand it to you because they know how to start winning and keep progressing and keep scoring. I'm going to go 27-33.
Who wins?
LSU.
Okay.
Ooh, I don't like the way you said that.
Big
LSU.
question.
I'm sorry. I mean, Kyle Field, I went to the game.
I could see them losing this game.
I went to the game 2 years ago, and it wasn't fun. That
it's different.
Fan base,
yeah, it's different over there.
It's not fun. So
weird
if they
vibes.
if they don't get too cocky, seriously.
I think they're focused because both teams know what's on the line here. It's first place in the SEC.
Yeah, they're the only 2 teams undefeated in SEC play.
This is for the driver's seat in the SEC. Both teams know that. I think this one's going to come down to coaching, as crazy as it seems.
Oh, wow. I mean, I could see that, too. And I know you guys
oh boy, am I scared.
Yeah.
Because of that.
I know you guys say, like, they know that, but it's like, do they really? I've just seen them so many times in this situation walk in all confident. Because I hope they're confident. Confidence is key, but it's like, you can't go in there not thinking this is going to be an easy win because they don't think that, but you can't go up there with too much confidence.
Confidence can only do so much if you don't go and execute. So
and I think with first place in the SEC being on the line, I think it gives them something to play for. So that
I agree
for sure.
I just think
both teams,
considering that makes me not worry as much about are they going to be like on a high horse thing because like I said,
they
now
know what they're playing for.
You're playing for something. But with that being said, I'm gonna say LSU 38-24.
You think this one's?
I think we're gonna not a blowout. I think they're gonna pull away though, but not necessarily.
38-24 is that's what? That's 2 touchdowns. That's a blowout.
That's not a blowout.
It
For a top 15 matchup, that's a blowout.
It depends on how it looks. If we up 38-14 and you score 10 more points, that's a blowout.
Right.
But if the score is 24
close
all,
until that last drive. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean.
No, but what Andre said, a top 15 matchup, that is kind of considered.
That is,
a big lead.
yeah, that's a statement win right there.
I hope
I'm and I hope that happens too. But we shall see.
We shall see.
We shall see.
But thank you to Jayden Smith and Raven Freeman for joining me today on today's episode. I'm Andre Champagne, and this has been the Hodges Huddle.